All right, good afternoon, everybody. So we, the Glow Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, will be leading the moderation today. We are a service that strives to meet the needs of students who identify as queer and trans, and we also support those who identify as any other identity. We also welcome allies, questioning individuals, anyone who would like to access our center. We strive to maintain 4 services: advocacy, education, peer support, and social networking. So how we will run the debate is as follows. Each VP internal will have 1 minute to answer each question, and the other candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. When we are at 15 seconds, we will raise the yellow card to signal that your time is almost over. And we will raise the red card to signal that your time is over. We will give you 5 seconds if you're not finished when we've raised the red card, but that's all the extra time you will have. We will have a break after the first 5 services have asked their questions and resume after about 5 minutes. So, do you have any questions before we begin? So Glow will start with the questions. Our first question is, what would your platform offer to make the campus more inclusive for all genders? And this is for VP of Education.
Hello? Oh, perfect. So the People's Voice would like to make this campus more inclusive by providing more gender-neutral washrooms. At the moment, there are very few on this campus, so we'd like to provide more of them in every building, not just the SLC, but the QNC, the South Campus Hall, the MC, DC, and whatnot. Furthermore, we'd like to look so that we can get grants from the provincial government to provide more money so that there is more information provided for people, so that the Glow Center has the money to advertise and provide more events that allow for better inclusivity and better understanding about the different needs of different people. Thank you.
So part of my platform relates to actually gender equity. So working with the He for She campaign to make our university more equitable for people of all genders, but specifically women. And I also would work to improve gender inclusive language in all of our documents, and giving people the option to identify however fits best for them on official documents for the university.
Okay. And with the proposal for the expansion on the works, would the services get the potential to have bigger rooms, or would we all just be staying in the same positions that we have now? And also for VP of Education.
Well, the People's Voice does believe that at the end of the day there should be larger rooms, especially for services such as Glow. So during the SLC expansion, we would absolutely look favorable for providing Glow a larger center, especially one that is more open, more accessible for people to see and be able to attend so that they have a safe place to go to. So yes, no, we look absolutely favorable on the proposition of GLOW having a larger space to entertain more members. Thank you.
So my understanding of the PAC SLC expansion is that it doesn't touch the current second floor, but what it does do is create more student spaces. So it wouldn't expand the current spaces, but it could potentially mean that there's another space that services could move into that might be bigger and better suiting of their needs.
Our final question is how will you help the effort to change the law against gay men donating blood? And this question will be for VP Internal.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So I think working with the GLOW Center, I know that there's already been a lot of communication with the government on improving that situation and fighting for equality for everyone to be able to donate blood. I think continuing a conversation with the GLOW Center and working with the current coordinators and future coordinators on the correct dialogue and what needs to be presented to the correct parties. I think that would also fall into the VP Education's portfolio as well, so working alongside the VP Education in that respect too.
And our team and our team would work together to get a committee going to lobby against the government to make it more accessible for everyone. Closer? Okay. More accessible for everyone.
So I think this is a matter of a lot of importance to our students, in particular to GLOW and its members, and it should be a matter of importance to all the students at this campus. It's a part of the equality that we need to focus on. So what I would like to see happen is connecting perhaps with health services and bringing more health professionals into it that can say, no, there's no reason for this to be the case, that it needs to be changed. And I'd like to work closely with the candidate for VP Education to lobby the government and see that that comes to fruition.
Okay, thank you very much. The next service that will be posing questions is ICSN. So will the two representatives from ICSN join us up here, please? Oh, sorry, the representative.
Hi, so I'm from ICSN, and the first question is, what kind of improvement will your team make to ensure that our international and exchange students will feel welcomed in the UW community? Yeah, to anyone. For VP Education, I would say.
The People's Voice believes that international students make up a large part of the University of Waterloo experience, and furthering that, we believe that you should have more events that celebrate international students and help bring them more into the community, because obviously it is very isolating when you come here from a different country and you don't really know many people, and it's very different. It's frightening. So the People's Voice wants to hold more workshops and more events and partner ourselves with different services such as yourself, so that everyone feels inclusive and that we can integrate everyone into our society and to our community with great ease, and that they feel comforted. Thank you.
I think that we should work with VP Internal to work with you guys, because you have all the connections to international students, and finding out what works for you, being that you're the experts on international students. But I also had a conversation actually yesterday with some international students in V1, and they were talking about how one of the biggest problems that they have that they've seen is like communication issues, and that they're not getting the same information that all of the students who are citizens of Canada are getting. They're not getting all the emails and things, like knowing when their tuition's due and things like that. So that's definitely an issue that I would like to address.
And another question I have is, are there any programs like new programs that you would implement? Like any suggestions for programs besides just having events or like such as the International Peer Community? That's a program for anyone.
It's for the same people, right?
For anyone.
Okay.
So when I was working with student car share, an issue that we also saw come up with international students is transportation to other places, because a lot of people come here and, you know, as much as Waterloo is a destination, they want to, sorry, is that better? They want to explore other places in Ontario, in the States, and so partnering with, like, let's say, car sharing or rental car companies, or just figuring out ways to get the students to where they want to go and see the things that they want to do. So whether that's a trip to Toronto, whether that's a trip to go skiing, and partnering with the, like, so let's say the Waterloo and Snowboard Coalition to go skiing, or partnering with, you know, the Food Society to do like a food thing, just different kind of programming that can bring people together that isn't just specifically for international students. Thank you.
I think there's a really big opportunity during orientation to better welcome and integrate the international students at this campus. Right now, the system is such that international orientation occurs the week prior to orientation week, and with all the changes going on to orientation this year, I think there's a real opportunity for those two groups to better communicate and integrate their messaging so that it's not two separate things. Your welcome to Waterloo is all part of one single smooth transition, so that you're not getting repeated messaging, repeated communication that's redundant, but that you understand during orientation week what the students who went through international orientation understand and what they still need, new communication and messaging that's appropriate for them.
So on that note, I actually had the opportunity last semester to go on an exchange myself, so I think I have a little bit of a better understanding what it's like to be an international student, even though it was for a short time for myself and not my full undergraduate, which I know is can be a much more difficult transition to make. So part of my platform is the implementation of a much more thorough and up-to-date clubs database that I'd like to see all the clubs able to connect with international students, new students coming to the campus for the first time, that I saw at many other schools. When a student arrives, they get a large database that these are the clubs, this is how you can connect with them, and it really helps a student to feel welcomed and feel comfortable with their campus. So that's something that I personally would like to see happen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now hear from CRT. If the representative from CRT can come and join.
Thank you. So again, my name is Anthony, and I'm representing the University of Waterloo Campus Response Team, the Emergency and First Aid Services on campus. So I have 3 questions that I will be asking our candidates today. The first question, the University of Waterloo Campus Response Team would like to raise public awareness of our operations on campus. As VP Internal, how would you help to increase CRT's public profile so that we can ensure all students are made aware of the availability of our service for their events?
Okay, to start off, I would have them more visible and present during orientation week, so a lot more first years are aware of who you are and what you do. Because I know a lot of first years who want to join CRT, for example, don't join until their second term. I don't know how that works and how you offer it, but being more aware of what you do and how to get involved during orientation week would be a really good opportunity. Also, just when events are announced where I know you guys would be there working, and just promoting and thanking you for your service would be more present and happening, just to show people more about what you do and how you do it.
So I think that CRT provides a service that a lot of students take for granted and don't realize is run by student volunteers, and how important it is that it allows so many of our events to even take place at all. So something I'd like to see happen is perhaps a sort of a CRT appreciation day that could go on, because I think it is so key that students are aware that this is a service that they can join, and also that they are being given with very little that they need to actually do to get it. So just generally putting out a lot more information for you. That would be included in my intent to improve the feds.ca website, so there would be a lot more ease for students to access the information about your service and know how to get involved, make it much easier for them to request things from you. So that would be what I would like to see.
Okay? Okay, perfect. I think that to advertise your services more than what you do and how to get involved, but actually how you can help students, is a way to have it on a event form. So as a service coordinator, I know that having CRT at my event is an option, and so making sure that anyone who's hosting an event, not just inclusive in the feds group, but everyone knows that CRT can help promote safety at events and also be at your event, and making sure that's campus-wide known. So maybe working with different faculties who host events, like not just like the student groups, but also full-time staff groups, and making sure that everyone's aware of the different services that you can provide and how you can actually be at events and be there to train people and be a knowledgeable resource.
All right, thank you. So my second question, the University of Waterloo Campus Response Team is currently trying to increase the number of advanced medical first responder skills that we can use on shift so that we can better serve the student population in the event of an emergency. As president, how would you advocate on our behalf to health services and the University of Waterloo administration in this matter of student safety?
First of all, I'd like to thank CRT for all the hard work they put in. They do a lot of training, and that's something that many of us don't realize. Like, they had a 3-day weekend training that no one really knows about, and they do put a lot of effort. One thing that can be improved upon is oxygen, which is something CRT does not have right now. And maybe with the new expansion of SLC and PAC, there can be a better office space for them where they can put the oxygen in a locker, and that will help improve their services, as well as more funding for them to have just more equipment that would be necessary for certain operations. Thank you.
With regards to specifically that question, I think we need to get members of CRT, the coordinators, the volunteers, the executive, right in front of the university administration and have them face-to-face and higher up than not just health services, but the provost, the president, the associate provost, have them understand these are the people who are making your campus more safe. You know, it's not just a matter of, you know, these students are just volunteering and doing this just for kicks. You know, they are there on the scene making sure that, you know, the 40,000 members of this university community are as safe as they currently are. So I think it's a matter of bringing these people to the table and not just going to health services, but going all the way up, because this is such an important issue that it's not just a matter of health services, it's the entire campus needs to be made aware of this.
Okay, thank you. And for my third and final question, year over year, the number of services and clubs continues to expand. Correspondingly, the number of first aid coverage requests that CRT receives every year also increases. As VP Finance, how will you ensure that CRT funding grows in the coming years to meet these increasing demands so that we can ensure that our responders are properly outfitted and that our members are able to receive the best possible training?
Awesome. So I think the thing that we really need to focus on is working directly with CRT to figure out what the needs of the CRT members administrating these courses are, and what equipment that they actually do need, to budget accordingly with them, as well as I know athletics also does offer first aid training and things like that, so maybe working with conjunction with athletics and other external partners to partner up with them and provide more services to students and better training to ensure that our students who want this type of training can receive it without having to be neglected due to funding reasons.
So going off of that, also looking into maybe an on-call database or resources, so that you know, with a growing population, you have like a core, and then you have more people to really complement the added needs of more people, and also just ensuring that there's more accessibility for training, and so therefore it's easier for more people to become trained and therefore participate and implement the service.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now we'll be hearing from the Women's Center.
Just for the sake of transparency, I want it to be known that Sarah Wiley is my co-coordinator for the Women's Center in an attempt to make sure that these questions did remain unknown to her and that they were kind of protected in that way and that the process is respected. I did use like a separate email for communication with them. She was not at any of the meetings in which any of this was talked about, just so that that is not questioned later on. For VP Internal. Name one way that women are disadvantaged at the university and how we could specifically combat that as services.
I'm in first year, so I'm just getting into the university community, but I know from my fellow first years, a way we've been disadvantaged is the STEM scholarships. And I know we're working with he for she and trying to get that more available for female students. So that would be a really good thing to go at and try to get myself involved with, because even though that scholarship doesn't specifically affect me for what the program I'm in, I have many friends who would very much advantage from it, and it really needs to be divided equally amongst both genders.
I think that because we're such a STEM-focused school, like engineering is a major part of our student body, the focus on he for she and creating more positions for women in these STEM programs is a way that the school focuses on the lack of women in these represented in these programs. And I think that also because we're focused on STEM so much that we tend to, it almost seems that we could forget about the other programs that there are a higher population of women in. So just focusing on more aspects of the university than just the programs that are male dominated.
So I think we obviously know that there is an issue within STEM, and that's why we're taking so many steps to correct that, like the he for she program. I think another area that we can sometimes overlook is some of the clubs that stem out of that and the societies that stem out of certain areas that have been traditionally male dominated, where female members may feel uncomfortable joining or taking part in activities. And I think a good way to sort of work along with that is to connect with the Women's Center and hold workshops and information sessions for a lot of clubs and groups on campus that want to be sure that they are being more inclusive and welcoming to all members, regardless of gender or identity.
This question is for the candidate for president. Sexual assault and the issues surrounding it are a big issue on all post-secondary campuses, and this campus is no different. What initiatives are currently taken as a university to combat sexual assault as given by Kathleen Wynn's provincial government, and what can we do to continue to combat sexual assault?
For the past year, I've sat on the university's sexual assault working group. So we meet about every couple of weeks, and we're currently putting together the university's standalone policy on sexual assault. So I think that's going to be a huge important policy that's going to need to get broad student consultation, in particular the Women's Center. So I fully intend that once we have a draft, and even before then, to sit down with the Women's Center and say, here are the points that are going to go in the policy. Are you comfortable with them? Are you comfortable with the fact that survivors of sexual assault, they don't have to go forward with an investigation if they don't want to? And that is something that we are fighting for to be in the policy. Those sorts of things, and I think that policy is very important, and that working group that I've spent the year on is going in the right direction right now.
What Chris has mentioned is something really great to hear. Some things I'd like to add on is, I don't know how many girls walk around on campus pretty late, but like the days where I stay around 10, I get pretty freaked out walking around. It's really dark. There's not many lights, so that's something that we should maybe work on. More lights on campus. Also, there's only the help push button thingies in the parking lots and in the very empty areas along when you walk towards the residence. I think there should be at least a couple on campus, as well as the shuttle services should be more expanded.
sometimes, you know, I don't really want to take the bus that late, and I feel more safe taking the shuttle home. That's something, I feel like the shuttle service is really great, and that's something that really needs to be expanded on. So, yeah.
And this final question is for VP Education. How do you feel about affirmative action, and is it necessary?
Affirmative action, for those who don't know, is the idea of having quotas for the amount of marginalized groups that you include in, for example, acceptances to university or to acceptances to a job. So I think affirmative action is important because it's not, a lot of people think that it's going to put women, if that's the marginalized group that's benefiting from affirmative action, at an advantage. But because we live in a patriarchal society, people who are in these marginalized groups have so many obstacles to getting these positions that having affirmative action allows them to have an easier time, kind of removes another one of those obstacles to them getting into these positions, regardless of their gender.
To agree with my fellow candidate for VP Education, I do believe affirmative action is necessary. I do believe there are certain groups such as women and other marginalized groups that have difficulty entering places due to socioeconomic things that are against them, be it the patriarchy or other things. And as such, because I believe that everyone should have a level playing field and have the opportunities that, you know, are available to myself and to other people, we should continue it and provide it for the university so that, you know, for example, with the STEM question, women in STEM after secondary school, it's like becomes from 50-50, it goes down to 70-30, right, in favor of men. We need to change that. And if affirmative action helps change those ratios so it's more balanced to a 1-to-1 ratio, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will be hearing from the Bike Center, and that's the last service we'll hear from before the break.
So my name is Natea, I'm the Bike Center Coordinator, and I have 2 questions for the panel. So this one's for the VP Internal. Not many students are aware that we have a bike center on campus, and of those who do, not everyone is aware of where it is located. How will you help raise awareness of the bike center and its location?
So I think this is something that you're exactly right. A lot of students are either completely unaware that it exists or that it's now student run and that it's right here in the SLC, so easily accessible to them. So I think a big part of that is that we do already have a lot of great initiatives on campus that revolve around like Bike to Work Day, when you auction off bikes at the beginning of semesters. So I think really branding that as part of the Bike Center and using that as an opportunity to advertise and let students know this is a service. It's here in the SLC. You can access it, use it. We want you to bike more anyways, so we've made that easier for you. So that's definitely something I would be putting forward.
Okay, so coming from my first year perspective, again, some orientation still fresh in my head. I know it's going to be changed next year, but that's something that could be involved more in orientation, because until a little while ago, I didn't know there was a bike center. So I feel like it could be more involved in orientation. There could be something we could actually do with Bike Center, certain sections of orientation, and after that, for the upper years and after orientation is over, more signs, places, more knowledge, have it maybe a widget on the portal and something like that. Thank you.
Well, I definitely know the struggle of starting a service, as I was the starting coordinator for the Volunteer Center in July, and so I know the pain of people not knowing that your service exists. I think that having other services, starting at least with the other Fed services, know about your service, where it is, what they do, so that at their events, because they're a lot more known and better founded, they can also promote that as well. And then also just having more of a presence and having the VP internal role be more present on campus and mentioning at other meetings, by the way, this is a service that we provide. If you interact with students who may have this need, we can actually help support that. And along with that, I think the improvement of the feds.ca website. I think once the website is changed and better developed, as my counterpart of the VPOF candidate on my team wants to improve the feds.ca website, I think that that goes through and it becomes more usable, then people will be able to use it more and be able to see all the services that feds provides, including the Bike Center.
My second question is for the VP of Operations and Finance. So we're trying to encourage more cycling on campus, especially with the launch of the new bike rental program next term. So in light of this, how will you help to improve cycling infrastructure and safety on campus?
So for starters, I think there needs to be more respect for cyclists on campus, so more designated lanes maybe around Ring Road, and even traveling to different buildings on campus. I know for myself, when I walk to and from different buildings on campus, there's always either bicyclists like weaving in and out, and it's not safe for them, and it's also not safe for pedestrians. So working together to figure out a reasonable solution for cyclists that's convenient, but also an effective way to keep both parties safe is really important, and that would be working alongside with the VP Internal and the President to deal with the safety issues, for sure.
Yeah, to follow up with my opponent, I guess. Yeah, I think designated bike lanes are a really important part of making campus safer, but also I think bike security is a big thing, because you bring a bike to campus, you want to make sure that you're also leaving with that bike at the end of the day. So whether that's more places to lock or indoor storage, it would be kind of working with you and figuring out what the best strategy and solution would be for that problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will have our 5-minute break now. All right, we're going to get restarted in about a minute. So anyone who wants to just get resituated, do that now, please. Thank you. Okay, we're going to restart now, and we will be restarting with questions from Co-op Connection.
Hi, my name is UT, and I'm from Co-op Connection. My first question is for either the president or the vice president education, and it is, how will you maintain or strengthen ties with Cooperative Education Center for Career Action, that's CECA? Yep.
Okay, so I'll go first. UW is known for our strong co-op programs, and that's something I'm sure we're all very proud of, and we'd like to keep that way. So one way to maybe increase more co-op opportunities is to allow more research with other countries and other companies, and I think that's something the university should play along with, and also getting more funding from the government would be very useful.
Sorry. So I actually have a point in my platform that's all about co-op students. It's kind of multifaceted, but one of the things that I want to do is lobby the government to create more like incentives for employers to have co-op positions. So like having like grants for them and like tax cuts and things like that that would encourage them to want to have co-op students. And then I also want to improve the quality of the co-op experiences. So I've heard, I'm not in co-op personally, but I've heard from a lot of students that they've had negative experiences or have been mistreated in their jobs. So I want to create more of, so the first part of it is I want to create a course evaluation, similar thing, but an employer evaluation. So you would review both the employer and the position that you had, saying whether or not it was valuable to your education, whether or not you were mistreated, and also holding those accountable and letting students know like that they have rights in co-op and that there are resources for them if those rights are being violated.
My second question is towards the VP internal, and it is, how we are thinking of expanding, and are you willing to support us in our expansions for other countries such as China due to popularity?
Absolutely is my answer. A big part of my platform is increasing school spirit in the sense of connecting with the colleges, connecting with societies, and connecting with satellite campuses to create one university experience. I think that because we're a co-op school, we have a big problem with that because we're not here all the time, all of us. And speaking from a non-co-op student, I find it easier than my friends who are in co-op to connect with the university and really feel a part of the undergraduate experience. So definitely having, especially for international opportunities, I think it's really important to maintain that connection to Waterloo. And I think Co-op Connection does a great job of that right now, and looking forward to expanding.
We would 100% support you expanding. That would be amazing. And to help you do that, we would possibly create a committee to help you connect with other nations, so there's more co-op abroad opportunities, etc. And that committee could also help with other provinces in the country. Instead of just being around Southern Ontario, being around Ontario, you could go out to BC or anywhere else, just to help you expand your reach even further.
Thank you so much, guys. Oh, sorry.
Speaking as a co-op student, while I've not had an international co-op, I can understand, I think, a lot of the difficulties that would be associated with taking on that kind of a challenge. And I think that you expanding I'm 100% behind it, and I would give that my full support. I'd like to see more connections specific to individual areas and countries, the way that SICA already has, where they have specific individuals who are in charge of co-ops that go to Asia. I'd like to see sort of support groups specifically for different regions, because as we should all know, that different regions will have different demands and challenges that a co-op student would need to meet. So having a dedicated support group through Co-op Connection for them and keep building on that would be really beneficial.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, is anyone from OCC here? All right, so OCC will be our next service.
Okay, well, it's for the questions that I have to ask from OCC, and they're for everyone. So this year we are running our own orientation that's separate from you guys. We were wondering what kind of support that OCC can expect from feds in terms of orientation week. If anybody can start.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of a answer here. I think the key for OCC's orientation is understanding that feds can help provide the logistics, because with the orientation that feds partners with, the typical orientation week, we do so much of the swag ordering, room booking, food forms, all of that sort of technical stuff. But what's key for OCC's orientation is understanding that they need to be the ones to drive it, because they have the expertise. They know what's going to be the best experience for off-campus first-year students. So I think all of that technical stuff that's really just going to bog OCC down with hours and hours of effort into doing things, stuff that we're already doing for orientation week, I think that's what feds can contribute. But OCC is going to be the one to drive what is the event and what is the programming going to be, and it's entirely run by OCC.
So yeah, to follow up on what Chris said, well said. We also see it as like maybe creating a space on campus that where OCC during orientation week can kind of be based out of, and because we know that the current space is a little bit small. So maybe having somewhere during orientation week that is more visible on campus, so that yes, with all the other services that are being provided by feds, but also on top of that, that OCC is going to be, in a little bit, a couple other places on campus and more present, so that more people can engage with them. Because really, there's a lot of good things that come from OCC. So, thank you.
Yeah.
So I do think a lot of this, what I would like to see done, has in fact already been said. A lot of the expertise that feds already has in running orientation would be provided to OCC. And I'd also like to see that, assuming and hoping that we can really get the improvements to Feds dossier off the ground before the beginning of orientation, I'd like to see that OCC had a much easier way to connect with students, to provide information about their events and goings on and receive feedback about what they can do, what you can do to make your orientation successful and even better moving forward in the future.
I'd just like to quickly add something. So I was an off-campus student as well during orientation in first week, and I remember feeling a little left out because all my friends were here on campus and having fun, and the only thing I remember happening was just food that was offered, so that you had to sign up as off-campus students. So I'd really like to see, and I'm sure we'd love to support you guys as well, just more activities targeted towards off-campus students and maybe certain areas where they live. So that way, like I only this year found out that 4 girls live 2 streets away from me, and I'm almost third year GBDA, so it's nice to know that there's other people around you as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I have 2 more questions. So this is also for anyone. What do you think would be an app change for this service this year, and what changes can we make to be more valuable to our students?
So adding on to what I said, I guess, to make it more valuable, I just, like adding on to what my friend Jeremy said, just giving you guys a better space, because right now your office is pretty tiny, and like when you see like the committee members in there, it looks pretty full, so maybe just like a bigger kind of lounge area for off-campus students where they can come and connect with other people in the community and just like build. University is just about like building good friends. Like I'm not quite sure about anyone here, but honestly, I only talked to one person from high school, so it's good to build newer relationships here as well.
I think that including alongside your office hours and how you have a drop-in system that you can just come in and hang out, I think having events that are more drop-in based in bigger spaces, so like we mentioned before, if the SLC PAC referendum goes through, hopefully we can maybe work on certain services who need more space for like GLOW and the Women's Center and OCC who have people just lounging, and opening up that space so that lounging and chatting with upper year students becomes more of a activity rather than just a potential thing that may not be taken advantage of fully when it's such a great resource to be able to talk to other off-campus students and upper year students, especially in the first few months of school.
So I think a large part of this is, in fact, kind of connecting more with a lot of students that might not know about OCC or have the information that they can attend these events and that these are there for them to have the support that they need. So I think marketing a lot of it to some of the upper year students that aren't even aware that they can take part in OCC, that these are things that they can attend is important. That would be something I'd like to see done through feds.ca, through some of your events being larger scale and being exactly more open spaces that is easy for students to attend on a much more casual basis and much similar to a lot of the other events that you see around campus that you can just drop into the Great Hall and leave.
Also, I just wanted to add a quick thing. Part of VPOF is also making sure that the website is implemented. That's already been started. It's a process that's already on its way, but making sure the smooth implementation of the new Fed's website so that it integrates better with the portal system, and therefore people will be more updated with what's going on campus, because there's that central kind of ability for everybody to see what's going on through portal. So, thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to add one more thing. From my personal experience and talking with my fellow friends who have been in the OCC community even in first year, the one big thing that they wish that they were connected more with is students specifically on campus and with first years. So whether that may be helping OCC engage in discussion with residents and doing combined promotion with them and put on events together so that students can meet other students on campus that may be in their classes, and then overall that will improve our school community and our school spirit, which is in the Federation of Students Long Range Plan.
Awesome. So I have one last question for you guys. Sorry, I'm interrupting. So how will you advocate for our service and support some of our initiatives?
I think I can respond to that one. It's my understanding that the OCC budget was slashed during the spring term, and the People's Voice, if if elected, would like to bring that back. Personally, I think one of my first initiatives in office would be bring that back so you have the funding to provide activities for students who are, off campus but are, still in school during spring term, because not everybody has co-op, right? And, some people actually do take classes depending on, where they stand in co-op. So that'd be the first thing. And then the second thing during this, the SLC expansion, will be providing you with more office space. Perhaps looking at it as now, and this is kind of a cross-club thing, but if the CRT, for example, were to move into a larger office in the SLC expansion, you guys could either take up that space, right? Because from my understanding, your meeting with off-campus students for networking is done at the office, and it's quite crowded right now. So that's what we do. Thank you.
So I think a big issue that we notice in first year is the legitimacy of on-campus dons and the illegitimacy of off-campus dons when you're really very similar roles. You just don't happen to have people sleeping on the same floor as you. So I think that working with the residences and working with people involved with orientation especially, making sure that off-campus dons are just as important to students as on-campus dons and utilizing that resource as a valid choice. And so not just saying hey, you can just go to your don, but making sure they know that means off-campus dons too, who make themselves very known during orientation week. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, now we'll be hearing from Sai.
Hi guys, I'm Katie Ezra, and Sarah Green is also the other coordinator for Sustainable Campus Initiative. We have 3 questions prepared. So the first one will be for the candidate presidents. In the past, a Fed's president created an advocacy council on sustainability. Do you have any plans to reinstate this, or do you think that there's a possibility of having this reinstated in the future? Why or why not?
Go first. Something I'd really wanted to get started when making our campus more sustainable is adding green bins. And I know that it's been discussed before, but it never went through. It never went through because there was issues to where it would be placed. And that's something I'd like to add, and hopefully that would make our campus much more sustainable.
I think in the past there was an issue with the sustainability committee within FEDS because it was duplicating a lot of the efforts of the Sustainable Campus Initiative. I think that was an inefficient way for FEDS to advocate on these issues. I think the key for us to be successful here is to get the experts in the field, get those student experts specifically from SCI and any students who want to join that, and get them involved with meetings directly with the university. The university has I believe it's a President's Advisory Committee on Sustainability. We need to get students in front of that committee. We need to get them in front of the sustainability coordinator at the university. We need to have them talking directly to the people rather than add the bureaucracy of yet another committee that's kind of the in-between between the students who are the experts on this topic and the actual decision makers at the university and within FEDS. So rather than say, let's just add another committee, I'd rather we have the experts within SCI directly do the advocacy themselves.
Second question. So this one will be for the VP of Operations and Finance. Do you guys believe, or I guess, do you individually believe that there are operations within FEDS that can become more sustainable? If so, what do you plan on doing to address these operations and introduce more sustainable options?
Yes, I do believe that FEDS can be more sustainable within their operations. Within my platform, I've specifically focused on, say, the bomber takeout containers, where in the past that they tried to implement environmentally friendly takeout containers, and then they kind of dropped off because they weren't managing these environmentally friendly takeout containers in the best way possible, as well with the price of more sustainable initiatives and items within our market today. It's a lot easier to equal out the bottom line and not be in such red with really going along with implementing sustainable items on campus. Additionally, I think it's should be a mandate and a priority for FEDS to really drive home that if we want this campus to be existing and be beautiful for the future, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years down the road, we really need to start taking action now and worry about those small changes that we can do that won't really harm our daily habits, they're just going to become more environmentally friendly.
I agree with everything Brian said. Well said. And then to add on top of that, so something that launched today was something called Soupful Bliss. It's in the environment faculty, and the idea of what they're doing is they're providing affordable food and sustainable food for people out of the Environment Cafe. And so I think something where, especially with VPOF, what we have a lot of control over is food and the food within like Feds under Feds control. And so I want to create a more sustainable food culture that's also affordable, because sustainable can be affordable and it can be just kind of better for everybody. And then also on top of that, maybe within the SLC, talking about green bins, like a green bin pilot project to see how we can implement green bins in the SLC, because that's like a smaller scale, and then kind of scale up from there. So those are kind of two things that I would kind of want to look into. So thank you.
Well, and finally, our last question is directed to the VP of Internals. How will you guys ensure that the groups under your portfolio are engaging in sustainable practices? So I think that a good method of doing that is, in part, the reports that we get from the various services and coordinators in what kind of things what events they're trying to run, what supplies they're looking to get out of those things, and making it clear from the very start that sustainability is something that Feds prides itself on and wants to focus on, and that whenever possible, coordinators and services should be making the effort to find the most sustainable options, reducing water bottle usage at events, that sort of a thing, promoting more reusable and renewable options for students. I think that, like Chris had mentioned, Sci is pretty much the expert on campus for sustainable purposes, so I think involving Sci in conversations, whether it be with society groups, like the faculty societies, different services, clubs, anyone who is having an event, say, or just wants to update their general practices, I think having Sci as part of the conversation, so maybe a member of Sci can come to certain meetings and advocate for different aspects of how the group can improve, as well as I know on event forums you have a checkbox saying if you want Sci to help you come up with sustainable purchasing options for your event, but making sure that, again, like I kind of mentioned with CRT, that is really known and driven home for all groups on campus and not just for the few that use an event form.
As everyone has already said, Sci is the most they are the most informed about being sustainable. So making Feds, like, we want to have you involved in keeping like all the clubs sustainable. So even having like a member of your committee to come to club meetings to do checkups to make sure that they're sustainable. Even having certain things that they have to follow, like less plastic water bottles, etc.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, up next we'll be hearing from the Volunteer Center.
Hi, my name is Reba, and I'm one of the coordinators for the Feds Volunteer Center. So I have 3 questions for you. My first one is to the internal candidates, but anybody can feel free to answer. So how can you help the Feds Volunteer Center, as one of Feds' very new services, gain recognition and become a utility to the Waterloo students?
I just want to preface, for full disclosure purposes, I'm the current coordinator for the Volunteer Center, and Victoria is an executive. We're more than happy to answer questions, but in the interest of full disclosure, that's that. So bringing up the fact that I'm a first year again, I wasn't completely aware that the Volunteer Center existed. I know it's very new. So once again, I know a week is going to be very much changed and reconstructed for next year, but it would be a good way to make the Volunteer Center more well known by implementing it into O Week. And because I know from myself that I really wanted to get involved, and even volunteering would be a good way, so that would be a good way to help first years get involved with your.
So as I kind of mentioned earlier, with clubs, I'd like to see some kind of a club listing go out to new students that are arriving on campus for the first time. And I'd like to see something of a similar nature happen for a lot of the volunteer positions that we do have, while I'm aware that we have such a number of volunteer positions that individual positions could never feasibly be sent out to all students, but sort of an overview of the different organizations and groups that we have available for students to volunteer at. I'd like to see something of that nature go out to students to make them more aware that the Volunteer Center exists and that there's so many opportunities that are now available to them and that they're so easily accessible in one place.
I think a big issue with the Volunteer Center is that there's not a lot of staff recognition, so university staff members and faculty members aren't aware of what what the Volunteer Center is. And I think that having the role as the VP internal to reach out to these different groups to make sure that they're aware of this excellent service so that they can promote to their not only their staff members to advertise through the Volunteer Center's site the different opportunities, but also to advertise to their students that they interact with on a daily basis to say, this is where you can go to figure out different volunteering opportunities on and off campus.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Something that I've noticed and heard from a lot of students in my involvement on campus is, imprint always has, I pick up an imprint and I read that, and that's where I found out a lot of things that are going on campus. So maybe another kind of solution would be adding in an old school classified section. These are the volunteer positions that are available now. Reach out type of thing, or even just kind of creating within the imprint a section that for the Volunteer Center, in an innovative way to kind of help them get around. Because imprint, there's a lot of people reading it, and there's also a lot of actual papers going out on campus. So, thank you.
Thank you. My second question is for the same set of people. Anyone can answer. How will you help the Volunteer Center build a stronger on-campus organization membership?
I think I already touched on that a little bit by having the VP internal role as a staff role, reach out to the different groups and help legitimize the service, because it's one thing for a service coordinator to go when other members of the university, because we're so siloed as a university, we're all in our own worlds, they don't really realize what services do outside of feds. So I think having as the VP internal or any of the exec or full-time staff positions can really help make people realize what the Volunteer Center does and how it can benefit them as well as students.
Something just to add on to that, so if perhaps the Volunteer Center can connect with the different faculties, because in our today's world, just having your degree on your resume doesn't really cut it anymore. It's all about experience and who you've worked with and what you've gained from that. So I know for the optometry program, I know they need to get 20 hours of volunteer service. So if you guys can connect to the different faculties and see what they need from them, and you can connect them with proper volunteer opportunities.
So I'd like to make it a focus of mine in this role to connect with and strengthen the bond between feds and the student societies, which I know right now the Volunteer Center has not been able to connect with all of them and really bring in the volunteer opportunities that they have and strengthen that connection on campus. So that's a part of what I'd like to see done, as well as obviously connecting with staff members that may have heard about this in previous semesters when it was just getting started, and trying to figure out what kind of service this was and maybe have dismissed it or not considered it, and bringing that back to them again, that this is a service that is going to stay and will be a long part of feds and provide opportunities to students.
Okay, thank you. My final question is, do you have a plan to make the services budget better optimized to cater to the different needs of the different services? Sounds like a finance question.
So yeah, I think that the Volunteer Center, it's important to ensure that the resources are allocated appropriately, and that you guys have the resources and the support that you need to make sure that people can actually volunteer and do things. So I think it's important and to kind of ensure that it keeps growing with the growth of the Volunteer Center, because as the Volunteer Center grows, the needs will grow as well. And since it's only, that's in its second term, so second term, and it's only going to go onwards and upwards from here. So thank you.
Awesome. So I initially started out as co-op and then I switched to the regular stream. A lot of my experiences that have built my resume have come from volunteer experiences, especially on the campus. And those experiences have, the way that I obtained them was reaching out by myself. But I really think working with the Volunteer Center and the university to ensure that all of these positions are advertised to students in an effective way through one central database is very, very important. And as well working with the Volunteer Center to ensure that the budget suits their needs and ensures that they have the resources to do what they can do to serve students in the best way to give them those experiences, because a lot of students at this school aren't in co-op, and those resume experiences and those volunteer experiences will definitely help build their portfolio to make them be marketable to future employers.
Thank you.
Okay, the final service we will hear from is the food bank. All right, so Brennan will be asking on behalf of the food bank.
Sorry, we're a little ahead, so that's why they're not here yet. Because I think they were supposed to be here like 2:45, so it's all good. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask. So, the first question, not sure what it's for, so I'll find out at the end. Aside from holding events and putting up posters, do you have any suggestions on how we could raise greater awareness for the Federation of Students Food Bank here at the University of Waterloo? I think anybody can answer that.
Something that can be done is more advertisement during orientation week. Like I feel like everyone remembers the orientation experience, so if it's advertised properly then, and so that everyone knows what they have available to them, and when they need help, they can come to the food bank and get it.
Awesome. So I think it comes down to marketing resources that Feds can support the food bank with. At the end of the day, Feds has such a plethora of resources to market these events to students and market that the food bank exists and what its needs are on campus, specifically to help create more awareness of it. I know, for example, I'm in AHS, and we do a food drive every Christmas to go around in the neighborhoods to collect canned goods, working in coordination with the food bank to ensure that maybe we can donate those canned goods to them instead of to the Waterloo Food Bank, and different efforts like that to ensure that students are aware of what the service does and why it's really important to the overall student body, because let's face it, we're all really broke at the end of the day, and if we do need food to survive and be good students, we should be able to provide these resources to students and support each other throughout the long journey that we're here.
So I think that sort of a missed opportunity in advertising the Fed's Food Bank are Welcome Week and Wrap-Up Week, where students are just starting their semesters, so it's a time when they're particularly open to learning new things, hearing new information about what's going on around on their campus. There's always the free breakfast that's put on by the campus. I think it'd be great to have the food bank involved in that a little bit more, because just in the fact that it's food related and it's, hey, you're getting free food now, would you like to come get free food later as well? It really kind of connects that for students. As well, the idea of wrap-up week when students are so stressed, and the other thing they need is more stress about not being able to find food that they need. So I think that that's a missed opportunity that I'd like to see Fed's Food Bank be able to take advantage of.
Also, just to add one more thing, as we were talking about Portal before, it's something that in my 5th year, obviously Portal isn't as influential to me because I've already kind of gotten used to using the wonky systems that exist. But Portal for a lot of first years and a lot of people coming into the university is quite important, and having Food Bank more accessible to Portal is something that's really important, and that's kind of why the new Feds website is so valuable. But it's also, when we were talking to Food Bank previously, something that they said they deal with a lot is food not bombs for food that goes to waste. There should never be food that goes to waste. If we've got food, there's people on campus that could use it that might not know it exists. So maybe it's like something like maybe doing something like a flash sale, like come grab food today, where it'll be done tomorrow type of thing, and figuring out a way to creatively have some fun with the food bank and getting that message out there. Thank you.
Okay. So the second question will be for the VP Ed. Aside from just promoting the Fed student food bank, How do you plan on alleviating food insecurity and student poverty here at UW?
Well, this goes back also to the advertisement of the food bank. We need to provide obviously more information on that, especially in like financial aid offices, places where people who are in precarious financial situations are likely to be, therefore they understand where it is. Furthering that, the provincial government provides a lot of earmarked financial resources for anti-poverty initiatives. I myself, if elected to office, will happily pursue those and lobby the provincial government so that that money is provided, and therefore the food bank both can expand and have more resources to help alleviate any issues with regards to food security in the University of Waterloo and the campus community. Thank you.
So I actually have a point on my platform that is all about money and students managing tuition costs. So right now, USA, the Ontario Undergrad Student Alliance, has an initiative called Time Out, and they're trying to lobby the government to freeze tuition. So right now, tuition's going up by 3 to 5% a year, which is insane. That's way higher than just general inflation rate. So I've already started talking to them just out of interest, and would continue to work with them and pursue that initiative to lobby the government.
All right. Not sure who this last one's for. Let's just say for everybody. It might be for the president, but that's the last question of everything, so everybody can have an answer. Considering that the food bank is a service that provides students with a basic human necessity, such as food, why do you feel it's not financially supported by the university, and how do you think you will help change this?
Well, to go back what I stated with the previous question, the idea is I don't know why it hasn't been well supported, and obviously I would happily argue and fight in council and other ways so that they do have the money from feds. I think that lobbying the federal government and asking for the resources that they have provided for anti-poverty initiatives would also help alleviate that fund, because if the university is being provided money that is earmarked to help fight poverty and food insecurity, then the money, other than other things such as helping people who are severely in severe finance precarious situations, would be going towards the food bank. Furthering that by making them slightly, I guess, more open, and perhaps even running events where there are donations, both financial and physical, then the food bank will be able to have more resources to its to allocate to students and whatnot. Thank you.
To start, I'll just open. I could spend all day up here talking about why the university doesn't fund things. But specifically for this one, I think it's because the university does have these sort of emergency bursaries that they give to students who have run out of every option. They just can't afford tuition, or they can't afford the basic necessities to be a student on this campus. But it is kind of a little bit of a hunt to try and find how to apply for these bursaries. I think a key for feds to do is to have the university recognize that students don't know that they can always turn to student awards and financial aid if they do need assistance, and maybe we can make that process a little bit easier and provide some of that funding that they're already willing to provide to students in need, and have it directly go to the food bank, because that is a service that is still a little bit better well known for students to go to access if they do need resources, as basic necessities.
So I think that a possibility for why the food bank might not be as funded as it should be, besides the fact that there are a lot of things constantly vying for funding, is that there are food banks offered off campus through the city and the community, but I think that it's very important that we offer that as well to our students specifically, that it's a dedicated place where they can feel comfortable and safe connecting with and receiving the aid that they need. So I think that, as I said earlier, kind of more advertising about the food bank and making it more aware for students that it's both something that exists and something that they, perhaps as a student who has the opportunity to, can support, to lend their own support, their time, or if they have donations that they can give to do that as well, because I think that's often forgotten, that students can support their food bank just as much as they're able to access it. So kind of balancing both of those together.
All right, I just want to say one last thing on behalf of the food bank. Just so you guys are aware and everybody's aware, the food bank for the first time ever now has weekend hours. And so not only are they open for over 12 hours a day, they're also open on Saturdays and Sundays, which is pretty awesome. So just share that to everybody. Anyway, thanks.
All right, so that's the end of this Q&A debate. Thanks everyone for coming out.